Ladies and gentlemen, let me begin with a confession that unsettles most rooms. You have felt small. You have felt watched. You have felt the cold precision of someone who knew exactly which button to push, exactly which wound to press, exactly which silence to fill with your own anxious words. And in that moment, you were not merely embarrassed. You were owned. That is the truth of it. Someone reached into the architecture of your mind and flipped a switch you did not even know existed. And you responded exactly as they predicted. Today we talk about becoming untouchable. Not invincible, not feared, not cruel. Untouchable means that no one can reach into that architecture again without your explicit permission. It means your emotional triggers are no longer hanging in plain sight like keys in a lock. It means your fears, your desires, your insecurities, your desperate need for approval. These things become yours again, not weapons for anyone with a basic understanding of influence. Dark psychology is not a spell book for villains. It is a map of the human, and if you refuse to study that map, you will always be the territory that others conquer. The predator knows your schedule better than you do. The manipulator knows your childhood wounds better than your therapist. The narcissist knows exactly when to give you crumbs of affection and when to starve you entirely. They do this because they have studied human behavior the way a mechanic studies an engine. And you have been driving around with your hood wide open. To become untouchable, you must first accept a difficult truth. You are not immune to manipulation. No one is. Intelligence does not protect you. Education does not protect you. Wealth does not protect you. In fact, the more successful you are, the more likely you have blind spots that manipulators exploit. The desire to be seen as competent. The fear of being exposed as a fraud. The hunger for loyalty. These are not weaknesses in your character. They are features of your humanity. And dark psychology weaponizes features. The first layer of untouchability is what I call emotional opacity. Most people walk through the world with their emotional state broadcast on an open frequency. Anger, fear, insecurity, excitement, loneliness, it all shows. The manipulator reads this instantly. They know when you are hungry, tired, lonely, or desperate. They know because you tell them without words. Your face is a billboard. Your posture is a confession. Your tone of voice is a leaky faucet of information. To become untouchable, you learn to close those leaks. This does not mean becoming a robot. It means becoming intentional. You learn to pause before reacting. You learn to recognize the physical sensation of an emotional trigger rising in your chest. And you learn to let it pass without external display. The manipulator feeds on reaction. If you do not react, they do not eat. They will escalate. They will try new angles. They will become frustrated. And frustration is when manipulators make mistakes. That pause between stimulus and response, that tiny gap, is where your freedom lives. Second, you must understand the dark triad traits that move through every social environment. Narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy exist on spectrums, and you have encountered them more times than you realize. The narcissist needs your admiration. The Machiavellian needs your utility. The psychopath needs your suffering or your submission. They will not announce themselves. They will appear charming, helpful, even vulnerable. The most dangerous manipulator is the one who has learned to wear empathy like a mask. Becoming untouchable means learning to spot the mask without ripping it off. Because if you accuse a skilled manipulator directly, they will gaslight you into questioning your own perception. They will cry. They will become the victim. They will make you apologize for your suspicion. So you do not confront. You observe. You take mental notes. You test small boundaries. You say no to a small request and watch how they react. A healthy person accepts a no with grace or negotiates transparently. A manipulator will punish you for that no, subtly at first, then more overtly. That punishment is your evidence. Third, you must rewrite your relationship with guilt and shame. These are the two most powerful levers in dark psychology. The manipulator will make you feel guilty for having boundaries. They will make you feel ashamed for prioritizing yourself. They will frame your self-protection as selfishness and their exploitation as need. How many times have you stayed in a draining conversation, agreed to an unfair demand, loaned money you knew you would never see again, all because you did not want to feel like a bad person? Becoming untouchable means accepting that you will be called selfish, you will be called cold, you will be called paranoid, and none of those labels will kill you. The guilt you feel is a conditioned response, not a moral compass. The manipulator installed that guilt button over years of small transgressions against your autonomy. Every time you apologize for existing, you press that button yourself. Stop apologizing for your boundaries. Stop explaining your no. A no that requires explanation is a negotiation. A no that stands alone is a wall. Fourth, you must master the art of strategic silence. Most people are terrified of silence. They rush to fill it with information, with promises, with vulnerabilities, with jokes, with anything to dissolve the discomfort. The manipulator knows this. They will create silence intentionally. They will ask a question and then wait. They will state a vague accusation and then wait. They will share a painful story and then wait. And in that waiting, you will offer up your secrets just to escape the pressure. Do not fill the silence. Let it sit. Let it grow heavy. Let the manipulator be the one who breaks first. They rarely do, because they are trained to outlast you. But you can become trained as well. Practice silence in low-stakes conversations. Count to 5 before responding. Let someone finish their sentence and then count to 3 more before you open your mouth. You will be amazed how often the other person adds something they did not mean to say, or contradicts themselves, or reveals their true intent. Silence is a vacuum that pulls truth out of the air. Fifth, you must learn to recognize and resist love bombing, future faking, and trauma bonding. These are the holy trinity of emotional entrapment. Love bombing is the sudden flood of affection, praise, and attention that feels like finally being seen. Future faking is the shared fantasy of a life together, a business partnership, a creative collaboration that never materializes, but always feels just around the corner. Trauma bonding is the cycle of idealization, devaluation, and discard that creates addiction to the abuser's approval. To become untouchable, you learn to distrust intensity. Healthy relationships build slowly. They have boundaries from day one. They allow for disagreement and distance. The manipulator's relationship feels like a fire hose. It is overwhelming, consuming, and impossible to ignore. That is by design. They are flooding your logical brain with emotion so that you cannot think clearly. When someone seems too perfect too fast, when they mirror your every desire, when they claim a soul connection after 2 weeks, you do not feel flattered, you feel warned. Sixth, you must build a fortress of self-trust. The ultimate goal of dark psychology is to make you doubt your own perception. Gaslighting is not just lying. It is lying in a pattern that erodes your confidence in your memory, your senses, your judgment. The manipulator wants you to come to them for reality checks. They want to be the source of truth in your life. Once you trust them more than you trust yourself, You are theirs forever. Rebuilding self-trust is painstaking work. Start small. Keep a journal of events and your interpretation of them. When you feel confused, return to the journal. Compare your notes with what the manipulator later tells you happened. You will see the discrepancies. You will see where they edited reality. Over time, you will learn to trust your own record more than their revisions. You will learn that your gut feeling is not hysteria. It is data your conscious mind has not yet processed. You will learn to leave situations that feel wrong even when you cannot explain why. Seventh, you must become comfortable with being disliked. This is the hardest lesson for most people. We are social animals. Rejection from the tribe once meant death. Your brain still treats social disapproval as a survival threat. The manipulator knows this. They will threaten to withdraw their approval. They will hint at exclusion. They will spread rumors that make you the villain in your own social circle. And the fear of that outcome will keep you compliant. But here is the secret. The people whose approval you fear losing are not your tribe. Real connection does not require you to shrink. Real love does not demand your submission. Real friendship does not vanish when you say no. The manipulator's approval is a trap, not a treasure. Let them dislike you. Let them leave. Let them tell their version of the story. The people who matter will ask for your side. The people who do not ask were never yours to keep. Eighth, you must study the tactics so that you are not blindsided by them. Learn about the foot in the door technique, where a small request leads to a larger one. Learn about the door in the face technique, where an outrageous request makes a reasonable one seem easy. Learn about the law of reciprocity, how a small gift creates a crushing obligation. Learn about the contrast principle, how presenting a terrible option makes a bad option look good. Learn about the scarcity principle, how the fear of missing out overrides logic. This is not so you can use these tactics on others. It is so you can recognize them when they are used on you. Once you see the pattern, the magic dissolves. A free drink is just a drink. A compliment is just an opinion. A deadline is just a date on a calendar. The manipulator relies on you not knowing the name of the thing that is happening to you. Name it, and you take away half its power. Ninth, you must audit your own dark side. Everyone has the capacity for manipulation. You have used guilt to get what you wanted. You have used silence as punishment. You have played the victim to escape accountability. Pretending otherwise is not virtue, it is blindness. And that blindness makes you an easy target, because you cannot defend against a tactic you refuse to admit exists within yourself. Becoming untouchable means integrating your shadow. Acknowledge that you can be manipulative. Recognize when you are tempted to use dark tactics. And then choose not to, not because you are incapable, but because you have better tools. The person who has never considered how to hurt others has no defense against those who have. The person who has considered it and rejected it has both understanding and moral clarity. That is real strength. 10th, and finally, you must accept that untouchability is not a destination. It is a daily practice. You will be tested. You will slip. You will find yourself justifying a manipulator's behavior, making excuses for their cruelty, blaming yourself for their reactions. This does not mean you have failed. It means you are human. The difference between the untouchable and the vulnerable is not perfection. It is recovery time. The vulnerable person stays in the manipulation for years. The untouchable recognizes it in weeks. The master recognizes it in minutes. You shorten your recovery time through relentless honesty with yourself. You keep a list of your known vulnerabilities: loneliness, financial stress, a recent loss, a deep need to be needed, a fear of being alone. You know these things about yourself better than any manipulator could. And because you know them, you can protect them. You can say, "I am lonely right now, so I will not make any major decisions about relationships." You can say, "I am financially stressed, so I will not agree to any joint ventures." You can say, "I am grieving, so I will not trust my emotional instincts until I have slept and eaten and talked to someone safe." That is what untouchable looks like. Not a fortress with no doors. A fortress with one door, and you hold the only key. You let people in when you choose. You ask them to leave when you choose. You do not fear their departure, because your sense of self is not built on their presence. You do not crave their approval, because your worth is not voted on by a committee. You do not need to understand their cruelty, because you no longer require closure from people who only know how to open wounds. So here is your speech. Here is your map. Here is your permission to become the person manipulators avoid, because they sense correctly that there is nothing to take from you. Not your peace, not your time, not your sanity, not your soul. You are untouchable, not because you are hard, but because you are whole. And a whole person cannot be manipulated. They can only be asked. And you have learned the difference. Go now and build your fortress. Brick by brick. No with each no. Silence by silence. Trust by trust. The world will test you by morning. And you will be ready.